Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, zombies, vampires, and demons, please join me as I re enter my favourite literary childhood universe, the universe of Darren Shan. This is book 2 of the Cirque de Freak Saga, or the Saga of Darren Shan. It all depends on where you are. I think it's got a couple of different names in different regions of the world. And this book is called The Vampire's Assistant. It's the sequel to the Cirque de Freak, and if you've read the Cirque de Freak or if you've watched my review on the Cirque de Freak, you will know that Darren Shan was just an ordinary boy until the Cirque de Freak, a freak show, rolled into his town, and he got himself a couple of tickets. Him and his best friend Steve Leopard attended. Steve identified a vampire from the performers, hung about after the show, and asked to become a vampire, and was subsequently rejected. Unfortunately for Darren, Darren stayed behind as well and witnessed this without either the vampire or Steve's knowledge. Darren Shan then went on to break into the Cirque de Freak where they were staying, steal Madame Octa, who was the vampire's, Mr. Crepsley's assistant, and in his attempt to show off the tarantula to Steve, subsequently Steve was bit, and Darren had to strike a deal with Mr. Crepsley whereby he would save Steve's life in return for becoming his assistant and becoming half vampire himself. And that is where we pick up 2 months later, 2 months after the blooding of Darren Shan as a half vampire, and we see him with his life, his new life, with Larton Crepsley. Darren is struggling with coming to terms with being a half vampire. He's struggling with the concept of having to drink human blood. Even though vampires don't drink to the point of death, as is told in many classical vampire literature, they don't have fangs, they don't drink until death, they just make a small incision in their victims once they're unconscious, take a small amount of blood, enough to suffice them, and their victims generally go more or less unharmed. Darren is still struggling very, very, very hard with the idea of taking blood from humans. He chooses to take blood from animals, but the blood from animals doesn't sustain a vampire as much as the blood from a human. So that's a large part of the book. Another large part of the book is Darren's loneliness. He's left behind his family, his mum and his dad and his sister and all his friends. He's left them all behind because they all believe he's dead. So he struggles very much with being unable to make friends, being unable to not only not be human, but being unable to make human friends as well. That's quite a large part of the book, and just him coming to terms with the fact that he wants to be human, he knows he can't be human, and he doesn't want to be a vampire, but he knows it's too late, there's nothing that can be done. So a large theme of this book is insecurity and the concept of us and them in a sociological sense, and it's very, very fascinating now. Actually, I didn't pick up on this looking back when I was a boy. I was just reading these books obviously for the horror. I was reading the books for the enjoyment of it. But now that I'm an adult, I can read these books again and I can pick up on the themes. So the concept of us and them, and the theme of loneliness and humanity and friendship. I love the relationship between Larton Crepsley and Darren Shan because it goes from a hateful relationship. Darren hates Mr. Crepsley at the start of this book for what he put him through. But by the end of the book, you will have seen an arc develop between these two characters where started out as hatred and it's sort of become a begrudging friendship, almost like a father-son type relationship. By the end of the book, Darren has, in my belief, almost accepted Mr. Crepsley as his mentor, almost taking him on board as kind of a father figure. There's still a bit of contempt there. I dare say there's still some hatred there as well at this point, but it's largely on the back burner. By the end of this book, Darren seems to have accepted his lot in life, accepted the card that he's been dealt. And it's definitely, if you enjoyed these books when you were a teenager like I was, 13, 14, 15, and you're an adult now like I am, God, I'm nearly 30, Christ. Yeah, definitely pick them up and read them again, because there'll be things in there that you didn't notice when you were a child, a young adult, that you will pick up on as an adult. Definitely give it another read. It's definitely worth another go. If you are a child and you've never read these books, I got given the whole 12 books as a birthday present for my 28th birthday. And I fully intend to pass them on to my son when he's of an appropriate age to read them. Because I loved these books so much. I loved them when I was a kid. I used to spend my entire lunchtime in the libraries reading, just clocking out these books and reading through them. And I read all 12. And it's definitely worth a go. I hope to pass it on to the next generation. And if you're currently young, definitely pick it up and read it. This saga, this series is just, it's iconic for me. It truly is. So I've got to do it again. I've got to give it 100% out of 100%, purely for nostalgia. And for the fact that on a second reading as an adult, you pick up things in there that you didn't notice as a child. So that's 100% out of 100%. Book number 2 of the Cirque du Freak saga, The Vampire's Assistant. I'll see you next time.